Welcome back to the Shred the Spread podcast. This is our championship week episode for the playoffs. As you guys can see, we've got 4 teams left competing for an NFL title. We've got the Bills and the Chiefs, which I think many of us are not surprised about. But on the other hand, in the NFC, we've got the Commanders, we've got the Eagles, we've got a battle of the podcast hosts for the Shred the Spread podcast. We've got a lot to get into. We have got a lot to get into. We've got 2 great games, 2 highly anticipated games, 2 games where a lot of love on the dogs. Before we get into these 2 very hype matchups, let me bring on my co-host, my right-hand man, my dude. I know what's going on, man.
Yeah, happy championship week, asshole. I hope you is ready,
Congratulations on
boy.
making it this far.
Yo, yeah, very surreal. I'm not even gonna lie to you, very surreal. Like as you guys already know, I'm a Commanders fan, so that means this is the first time I've ever experienced a championship game, let alone even last week, my first second round game for a Commanders game. So it feels nice, it feels good, and to know that we're going against the Philadelphia Eagles for the chip to go right now after we've been told that us beating them in Week 16 was our Super Bowl. This is very ironic how this game is literally going to determine who makes it to the Super Bowl. So I can't wait to talk about it. I can't wait to get into about Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen round 4 again. It's a lot of good things going on right now.
Yeah, this is probably the one time that I can remember in the last several years. And, I guess there's an exception of last year where the dogs have been getting a lot of love in this round. A lot of money coming in. Well, actually, I should say a lot of tickets and some decent amount of money coming in on the Bills. Professional bettors still hammering the Chiefs. I've spoken with a couple sharp guys. They love the Chiefs under 3, rightfully so. And then on the flip side, a lot of people, a lot of money, a lot of tickets. Ever since the early money came in on the Eagles and it got bet up to 6.5. Ever since that number touched 6.5, it's been all Commanders money and tickets. Which I'll tell you what, for a game that might be closer to 50-50 than people realize, they're getting a good price on the money line. I can't talk anybody out of it. For anybody betting the Commanders to win, I get it. For anybody betting the Chiefs to win or the Bills, I mean, there is a case to be made for every single side.
Yes,
We've
sir.
got a lot to dig into, Dynel. Let's not dilly-dally anymore. Let's get right into it.
Let's go.
Leading off, we have a 3 o'clock game on Sunday. The NFC Championship. Commanders traveling to Philadelphia. Eagles opened up as 3.5-point favorites, quickly got bet up to 5.5, 6. Currently, it's sitting at 6, with some books at 6.5, teeter-tottering back and forth, but for the most part, the consensus at 6 points. The total for this game is 47.5. We're looking like we're going to have some good weather in Philadelphia. It's a little bit of a heat wave coming through, quote unquote, on that. We've been dealing with mid-teens to single-digit numbers for the weather. And obviously, for those of you guys who watched the Rams and Eagles last week, you saw snow. We're going to be dodging that. We should have a good field condition with good weather. But this is going to be a battle. This is the 3rd time these teams are facing off in this year. And I'll tell you what, I make this number 7.5. I make it 7.5. I think just from my betting perspective, we're getting a very inflated line on this Commanders team. Commanders were just 9.5-point underdogs against a Jared Goff-led team where Jared Goff has been consistently choking in the playoffs, and against a Lions defense that is subpar at best. This is not your ordinary team. And when I really broke these numbers down and looked at the Commanders' rush defense, in shotgun, under center, Looked at the Eagles' rush defense in shotgun, under center, um, a lot of stuff. So, for those of you guys who have been following the podcast year after year, you guys know that I start my analysis based off offensive and defensive line. Well, I tip my cap to the Commanders, but the Eagles very convincingly beat them on both sides of that. Then I look at the secondary. Again, I give the Eagles the upper hand on that. I look at the quarterback. Right now, I give the upper hand to the Commanders. But the running back room, by a mile, running game, running back room, whatever it may be, I give it to the Eagles. Now, there's two things that you can look at this game when you're handicapping. You can look at what's going on now and what's realistic. The reason the Commanders have won the last 2 weeks, when it really comes down to it, is turnovers, protecting the ball. Baker Mayfield, fumble. A Jared Goff pick six, another interception. He throw 3 interceptions?
3 interceptions. Jameson Williams might be 4.
It
They
might
had
have been
5
4. I
turnovers.
know it was at
They
least
had
3. I
5
know he had 4
turnovers.
turnovers. Regardless, when I went back and watched some of that game, it felt like every time Jahmyr Gibbs touched the ball, he was running for 20 yards. Even Jameson Williams in that little trick play when Jared Goff got banged up, it's just there's something about this rushing defense that the Commanders that I just cannot trust. And I'm trying to put bias aside here because I know every single game statistically the Commanders have become a better second half team against the run. They adjust pretty well. Well, there's one team that adjusts just as well as they do, but on the opposite end, on the offense, and that's the Eagles. And it's because it's death by 1,000 paper cuts. And the one thing that I've been really leaning the Eagles and why I make my number 7.5 is because they have this Chiefs-esque scheme. It's death by 1,000 paper cuts. They lean on the run. They wear you down. They go play action. They make a play. Then they lean on the run. They wear you down. They go play action. They make a play. And they just make sure your drives are long, sophisticated, and generally stall out in the red zone. The Eagles are the best team defensively, DVOA, in the red zone this year. In the playoffs, you saw the Rams kept getting into, scoring territory, and the Eagles would put up the wall. I mean, there was the one time where, for some reason, when Saquon busted out that big touchdown, they just sat back and played soft coverage and, let them go downfield. But, this is just a team where they're not going to give the Commanders many opportunities to get the ball. It's going to be a lot of run, lean on the run. And I know Jalen Hurts, injury is up in air, but listen, apparently it's not structural. It's all pain tolerance, and they're going to find the best shit on the market to give him to. And you saw it in the post-game interview, he was high as a damn kite. I mean, he was smiling, making jokes, almost dropped the F-bomb. Listen, we know he was drugged up. He had that Patrick Mahomes good shit. We know. Because for those of you guys who watched the Eagles for the first time versus the Rams, that's not Jalen Hurts. That's about as animated as he's been in his entire career. Okay? I'll admit it. He's probably dealing with some shit, but nothing a little drug can't help him. Quinion Mitchell, he's good to go. Dallas Goedert, he's good to go. So the injury report has looked good for us. The only person that's questionable going into this game is Cam Jurgens. It's going to be a pain tolerance thing. Again, I think he's going to be in the Jalen Hurts kind of territory of he's going to play. This game matters too much. On the other side, the Commanders have a big issue on their offensive line right now. Mm-hmm. They're missing Cosme.
Yep,
That's
Sam
the name,
Cosme.
right? Sam Cosme.
Right guard.
Pressure rate with Cosme, 23%. Without him, 63%. Mm-hmm. And I know that's a small sample size, but that just goes to show you that they attack the weak links. So I'll let you go now, but basically what I'm saying is offensive line, defensive line, running game, defense, all 4 quadrants of that game besides quarterback, I will admit, Jaden Daniels has been playing a lot better than Jalen Hurts. I will tip my cap to him. He's got that position beat. Every other position on the field, I got to lean the Eagles here. That's why I make my number 7.5. Now, with that being said, let's get the Commanders' POV. Let's hear what you got to say.
All right, so I'm gonna say this here. I'm gonna put this in the two. You sound like Jason Kelsey, okay? Because Jason Kelsey made that very, very clear. And honestly, he is most certainly true. The roster from top to down in every position. I can argue linebacker, but then again, Zach Bond's
You
all
can,
pro,
you
so
can.
I
I
can't
will
argue.
say. I will
I
say.
can
You
argue
can. You can
linebacker.
argue linebacker.
You can argue that. But yes, in every other facet of the game you talk about it, if you really think about it, the Eagles are better roster wise. But this has been the story against the Commanders all year long. The Detroit. I mean, yes, they were banged up on the D line, but Detroit offensively, running back, wide receiver, quarterback. I mean, quarterback at some point. Remember, you're playing with a rookie. At first, before the game, you thought he was a better quarterback because he has been there. He's been experienced. He's been to a Super Bowl. It is a quarterback, and it's Jared Goff against a top the offense. You thought that was going to be better. We thought that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had better position. They had better corners. They had better safety. They sure had better safeties. Sure had a great D line that can stop the run. Definitely had decent, good linebackers to help fund that run. They also had the better wide receiving core and Mike Evans. If you want to argue that, I mean, your number two was De'Ami Brown. I mean, this is a ongoing thing. We know this. A lot of the times when the Commanders win these games in the playoffs, and recently in the last 7 games, the talent is better. The only thing is, Jaden Daniels has been better in each and every one of those games. And granted, I will give you this. The reason why I would say, I'm going to say this now, and I'm going to say this, and I'm going to think you can agree with me at this. You guys rather would have faced the Lions because you knew what happened last week was exactly going to happen this week if the Lions made the NFC Championship game. Am I right by saying that?
Are you talking about from our defensive standpoint, like
Yes,
slowing
I
down
mean,
the
yes.
Lions?
Because,
Okay, yes,
yes,
I
we
do
know how,
feel
like you
like
said,
there would
Jared
be a
Goff,
lot. Yeah,
yeah.
turnover potential definitely high.
Definitely higher. I mean, granted, you guys want to take advantage of that, and you guys, like I said, death by many paper cuts. You understand that. Understand that now in this position, the Commanders are also in the same type of offense. They can beat you deep wise, or they can beat you by death by paper cuts. Now, here's what I will say: the right guard being out is going to hurt. Jalen Carter is an absolute monster. He's an absolute beast. He needs to be double teamed at all times, and if he's not, he's going to wreck the game. That's what his mo is. No matter how you look at it, if you're trying to look at it with common sense, the Eagles are going to win this game hands down. If you want the spread right now is 6.5. If you would have matched everything up the way you said it like that, you would take the spread. But like I said, the theme is not if they're better or if they're good or better. It's about going into each game in position and delivering. Of course, I'm going to back the Commanders here. I'm going to put the money line here because it's my fucking team. I did pick the Eagles to make the Super Bowl. Don't forget about that. I will not run away from that. I picked the Eagles to make the Super Bowl, but that's before I realized the Commanders were going to make the Super Bowl. I mean, it was going to be in the NFC Championship game challenging them. And honestly, it's just the belief behind right now with the way this team is playing. It's just something special. It reminds me of a team in 2017 who were green, who had their quarterback hurt, who had their backup quarterback step up and absolutely shred every defense they played and win the Super Bowl and won and won. You guys, am I wrong? Am I wrong? Right?
Uh,
Underdogs, right? Underdog in every single
I
game.
hear you. I hear you.
Yeah, I mean, hey, all I'm saying is it makes sense to bet the Eagles. I'm not going to say it's not, but I'm gonna let you know right now. You better bet with caution. Bet with extreme caution, because all I'm saying is just like in the Super Bowl 3 years ago when Jalen Hurts fumbled that ball, all it takes is one turnover, and that can change the whole entire game. Jaden Daniels has not turned the ball over at all this entire playoffs. He's 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. I'm just saying we know who the better team is. We know who the better roster is. But sometimes the better quarterback can change all those fortunes and really lead a franchise who's been in turmoil for 33 years under a bad owner. All hoopla. I'm not going to bore you guys with that. He has a chance to really lead a franchise who's been starving to a championship. So, hey, all I'm going to say is bet with caution. I love Jaden Daniels under interception. Y'all, a lot of people love him over interception because of the Eagles defense. I have him under interception, and honestly, I have his rushing yards. Over on rushing yards. No matter what the fuck it is, it can be 40, it can be 50. I have him over on the rushing yard.
All right, so okay, yeah, I was gonna get into some props. So you like Jane Daniels rushing yards under interception.
Mm-hmm.
Um, right now, I mean, if you can get Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown minus 115 or less, I'm on it. Uh, the price is just wrong for a team that a total sitting at 47.5. So we're implying the Eagles to score 3 touchdowns. You're telling me out of the 3 touchdowns, Jalen Hurts probably doesn't have one push touchdown. I mean, it's getting ridiculous at this point. I mean, Jalen Hurts
Right.
at one point in the season was minus 200 to score a touchdown. He was scoring one, two, three. He had a game where he scored 3 touchdowns all in the tush push. It's so consistent, especially with Saquon Barkley having so much so many eyes on him at the goal line. It's the keeper. That's why so if early in the season, if you watch the Eagles, the quarterback keeper was embarrassing. It was always a negative play, always broke down. They always attacked Hurts. But ever since we've come into key with Saquon Barkley off tackle, the teams have really respected the outside zone, and they have to stay put. Jalen Hurts has known this. He's taken advantage of this, and that's why you see him start taking off for 20, 25, 30 yards, even scoring that touchdown last week against the Rams where he broke a tackle. With that being said, we know Jalen Hurts is a little bit banged up, and I know it's watching him slide is quite literally embarrassing. I mean, he's got to go with the Phillies this offseason and figure out how the hell to slide and take some practice into second base because it's like his body won't let him. It's like everything he wants to do is lean forward and run through the tackle.
Hmm.
That's not it. But with that being said, Saquon Barkley over 21 and a half longest rush. If he's going to get 25, 26, 27 carries, by the law of averages, one of those is going to break free. It's just been consistent. It's been my moneymaker. And the last but not least, what I will say here is A.J. Brown has had some pretty consistent success against this
Yes.
Commanders team.
Yes, he has. He has.
So do I think there's value playing AJ Brown's normal line at 60 and a half? Absolutely. Because I think this Commanders team is going to prepare for the run so much where you might see a little bit more of one-on-one coverage against AJ Brown where in the past we generally don't see it, especially after having a slow game last week, dropping a pass in the end zone, dropping a first down. I think they make a effort to go after him early because we know when AJ Brown gets going in these games, that is really where we can take advantage of all facets of the offense. So I like AJ Brown up to 90 plus receiving yards. You can get it at plus 310, especially with good weather. We know the Eagles have been playing in some pretty serious conditions, and they've been relying heavy on the run. We got to remember that AJ Brown is still a top receiver in this league. I know he had a rough week last week, but overall, AJ people have dialed back on the respect they have for AJ Brown because of a damn book and a drop pass. I mean, it's getting ridiculous. Like we're getting way
That's a
too
good
much
point.
value on a Eagles receiver where he is the obvious number one target, and he's going to have one-on-one shots this game just because of the eyes Saquon Barkley has drawn to him. So those are my favorite props. Uh, I will say the one that kind of where I guess I should say the two that were kind of knocking on the door were Jalen Carter over half a sack. It's plus money, and the only
That's
reason I
money.
even attacked it was because Cosme being out.
He's out. Yep.
Um, so he's gonna have an opportunity, and then Dallas Goddard receiving yards. We see him a few times a game running over the middle, and he just seems to have like that 15, 20 yard catch every game after he's come back into full fruition for this offense. I like his spot here. Was there any other props or last points you want to make on this Commanders Eagles game before we move on?
Yes, like I said, people might be may disagree with me on this. I would take the Jalen Hurts under 39 and a half. I just feel like you said, he's gonna be one of those straightaway power type run type plays. With that brace on, his mobility is kind of limited. We understand that with his legs being a factor, Saquon's gonna be kind of a full go. So I don't believe that Jalen Hurts is going to be able to really get outside the pocket, especially getting a 10 yard, 8 yard gains, 10 yard gains consistently. I feel like he's going to be one of those. He's going to rely on them mainly on short yardage, getting downhill, and just using that kind of push through. And guys, honestly, Saquon, whatever the rushing yards is for Saquon, just take it. It doesn't even matter what it
Like
is or what the odds are.
130 at some books.
Yeah, yeah, it's at 130. Yeah, it's at 130 for a reason. Honestly, I would go up to 150. He's averaged 150 against the Commanders this season alone, and against with the Giants, I mean, he averaged I think 150 with the Giants against us with the terrible O line. He's
Yeah.
just absolutely ridiculous. You couldn't stop Jameer Gibbs last week as in front of the running game. You're not going to stop Saquon here. It's all about containing enough to make sure you limit points. Take the Saquon over rushing yards, no matter what it is.
Oh, Donnell, by the way, I can't believe I almost forgot this. I am going back to the well. Austin Eckler alt receiving yards.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yep, yep.
40 receiving yards plus 240. 50
Come on
receiving
now.
yards plus 450.
Yeah.
He's going if the game goes how expected, where if the Eagles are maintaining a lead, which means in the Commanders already want to throw the ball more. You kind of see, Brian Robinson has been more so early in the down or early in the drive, late in the drive at the goal line, and Austin Eckler has kind of been coming in between. So I like Eckler receiving. We saw him get loose against the Lions. Let's just say there is going to be an opportunity to do so again, especially with how much Terry McLaurin, De'Ami Brown, uh, who the hell am I missing? Who's the other receiver?
Zacchaeus.
Zacchaeus. I mean, I know his receptions have been down a little bit, but he's still. I mean, shit. I think he scored versus us last time we played. So,
Yes, he did.
um,
Twice,
yeah,
twice, did twice.
yeah. So yeah, Austin Eckler receiving for the Commanders side. All right, we made it through that. Everybody's still got their limbs attached. Let's get into the night game. We have the Buffalo Bills traveling to Kansas City. Bills are up to +2.5 on DraftKings. That's the biggest number I see. A lot of books sitting at 2. FanDuel, believe it or not, still sitting at 1.5. So for those of you guys who like hedge and arbitration, bet the Bills. Sorry, bet the Chiefs -1.5 on the on FanDuel, and then you could play the juice up to Bills +3 on DraftKings. If you think, because I mean, more times than not, these teams end on one possession. Let's get into this. We've got a Kansas City team that last week looked good. They look good. We have a Bills team that for 4 quarters played great versus the Ravens, where we knew a lot of smart bettors were on the Ravens. Dino, you were on the Ravens.
Yeah, I was on the Ravens.
You were on
Yes,
the
sir.
Ravens.
I was on the Ravens.
Um, yeah. So
Fuck Mark Andrews.
that is a rough one. There's 2 ways I look at this game. Number one, my heart's with the Bills. I want the
Yes.
Bills.
Yes.
I haven't made a straight bet on the Bills money line or their current spread, but I have played them in a teaser. The teaser, by the way, teaser hit last week. Congrats to everybody who tailed that one. That was free as air. But I did tease the Bills. I got them at 2, so I got them at like plus 6 points. So I got them at +8. Whatever. I just wanted the 7. I got the Eagles at -0.5 a point for my teaser. So that was a teaser I played this week. With that being said, there's 2 ways I look at this game, Donnell. I'll let you dig into it first, but before I do that, this is kind of how I was feeling. If you bet the Bills, you're going to be sick to your stomach when Patrick Mahomes wins on a field goal. And if you bet the Chiefs, you'll be happy that the Bills won, but you'll be sitting there pissed off at yourself because you knew this was exactly where the spot where the Chiefs would lose. I keep going back and forth. Obviously, the smart money is pouring in on the Chiefs. I get it. Is this the year the Bills take down Kansas City?
At some point, it has to happen, right? Like at some point, it has to
Begging.
happen. And boy, like the Bills are just too good. I mean, it's been what, the 0-3 in the 3 playoff games they played against each other with those type rosters. Like Josh Allen is remarkable, man. Like he is so remarkable. And honestly, I do believe this time, personally, I am going to bet my heart here. I do believe the Bills come out on top. But like you said, bro, like -2.5. We say this all the time during the season. What we say, bro? Anytime you see the Chiefs under a field goal, you take that bet with your hands down. Like you don't even think about it. I think the biggest thing with me is I just feel like Josh Allen's due. I just feel like he's absolutely due. I mean,
Yeah.
this is just his. This is like it's not even more. Like I said, this is gonna be one of those gut feeling type things. This is not gonna be a common sense answer. There's no common sense answer here. And when you think about it, it's all about gut feel, who approaches this game and who has the best game plan. And granted, when you think about it, Kansas City is prepared, they're experienced, they've been here before. But don't forget, the Buffalo Bills have technically been here before. They've just been 1 game short against Patrick Mahomes. This is the time, I'm telling you, this is the time Josh Allen comes out on top. Just be safe. Just take the spread. Like I said, juice it the way Jared said, get it up over a field goal. Definitely take it that way because honestly, if this game is going to end within a field goal, it's just about who comes out on top. And honestly, I see the Bills coming out on top. I feel like Josh Allen has once again another 2 rushing touchdown type day. I bet that last week that hit. And honestly, this is going to be one of those Travis Kelce gets open, He's going to have a lot. I believe he's going to have a lot of targets. So target his receptions and yards. He's going to be the basically the X factor there. I mean, it's been Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce this whole time. He's been looking washed, but people might be saying he looked washed before that game, and he proved why he's the big time guy with over 100 receiving yards.
Yeah, I mean, just off rip, Travis Kelsey had 8 targets last week. I mean, we
Yeah,
haven't seen that since
come on
shit.
now.
I mean, I can't remember last time Travis Kelsey had 8 targets. I mean, shit. I was begging for 3 at some point during the season. I mean, he had
Facts.
7 receptions for 117 yards and a touchdown. Like that is
Come on, dude. That's
that's
prime.
Travis Kelsey.
That's prime
Now,
Kelsey
what I will
numbers.
say is DeAndre Hopkins and Hollywood Brown were no shows last
Non-existent.
week. I mean, the only
Yeah.
receiver, which I mean, kind of works into my favor here because I did sprinkle him for a touchdown, was Xavier Worthy. I mean, he had 5 targets. So
Right.
between Travis Kelsey, Xavier Worthy, and Noah Gray, they were the only pass catchers with a target besides Kareem Hunt. Or, I mean, with a reception besides Kareem Hunt.
Receptive. Yeah. Hmm.
So I'll say this: this is a game where if you're kind of like Dynel and I, and the fucking number is sitting with the Chiefs, and you're like Chiefs under a field goal in the playoffs at Arrowhead, history repeats itself, doesn't it? I get it. I get it. What I will say is if you're on the Bills like I am, I'm gonna look for a live spot. This
Yeah.
number
Okay.
probably is going to get to +3, maybe even on both sides. Like you're gonna have middle potential, but I really want a +3 on the Bills. I I think the Bills are going to stay in this game. We have seen a different job. This is the first year, I think Dynel can attest to this. This is the first year where you see Josh Allen just take a loss on a play. Doesn't try to turn
Yep.
like he doesn't have a turnover worthy play where it's like, dude, just take the down and live to see another day. Like even last week, you see them against the Ravens, and the Ravens started picking up some momentum on defense. They got to stop. They stopped the run. And Josh Allen normally, like, he goes out there and he's like, okay, why the hell we just call 3 Russian plays and we just punted? He goes out the next possession, running play, running play, running play. They went 3 and out again, and it's like, okay. But he never, like, audibled out, took a shot downfield, turned the ball away. The one quarterback who did that, ironically, was Lamar Jackson. So
Jackson. Yep.
you've seen the composure. I think Josh Allen has just gotten to the point where he's like, I wish I could have that turnover back. I wish I could have that fumble back. I wish I could have that pass back. He's getting so, I guess the patience has resided within himself, and he knows in the playoffs these games are long and every snap matters. And that is the one thing I can give credit to Josh Allen for. We've known Josh Allen to be a high volume turnover play. He makes a great play and he makes a play equally as bad, but you
Mhm.
just hope that the good outweighs the bad more times than not. This is the one year where he's actually in discussion for the least turnovers by the most snaps with a quarterback. It's
Yep.
insane. Like
Hmm.
completely night and day. And that is the one thing where I'm not just I know the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and expecting a different result, but I don't think that's the case this year. I know that's that's just like eat my own words there, but
Right.
Josh Allen is a different player. This team is a completely different team. They also run that type of Kansas City offense where run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. I mean, a lot of people were shitting on Jalen Hurts last week when he had just as many passing yards as Josh Allen did. People fail to
Hmm.
realize when Josh Allen beat the Ravens last week, I mean, he had what? 127 passing yards. Like people don't
Hmm.
realize that. But because he contained the ball, he led the offense downfield. I mean, they were one receiver. Khalil Shakir, 6 receptions on 7 targets, 67 yards. They did not have another receiver with 2 catches. The only receiver that had 2 catches or more was James Cook. They are going to run the ball. And you saw the Bills, their rushing defense was on point. Derrick Henry could not get going. 16 carries for 84 yards. 16 carries. Like 16 carries from Derrick Henry in a playoff game. That just goes to show you where they just were not comfortable with the death by 1,000 paper cuts. The Bills made them uncomfortable. Can the Bills do that to the Chiefs, Dynel? That's what I hope to find out.
And bro, and I mean, you know what? I'm gonna piggyback on what you talk about that because I think it's very, very critical on what you just said, right? I feel like what people view growth as far as numbers, ball placement, ability to place the ball in spots, just like how Lamar Jackson is. Because Lamar Jackson has made tremendous growth, even this year. The difference is Josh Allen made growth as well, maybe not by numbers, but like you said, not turning over the ball because that's the one thing Lamar has not grown on yet. And that was literally the difference of them making the AFC Championship game team as far as I'm concerned. Mark Andrews dropped that ball there, but that bonehead ass fucking fumble where he's just trying to brace himself with the ball, get up and he drops it like those are literally the plays that keep you from making it to where you are. I feel like Josh Allen having that growth right there is the reason why I think he will beat Kansas City there. And yes, I get it. I had the Broncos upsetting them in their first round or whatever, but Josh Allen has not turned the ball over in 10. I think he hasn't turned the ball over, throwing the ball as interceptions. But what people don't talk about is his fumbles. He hasn't fumbled the ball in the last 10 games. And that was a big problem for him as well. So, I mean, like you said, Jared, just be able to prevent turning over the ball. That's the biggest growth from Josh Allen. And I feel like that's ultimately the biggest thing that's going to get him to the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, and I'm going back to the well. Prop wise, James Cook over rushing and receiving yards, hit it last week
Yep.
by
Mm-hmm.
1 yard or 2 yards,
Right.
whatever it was. The alt line came through. Shout out to James Cook. That is just what I'm seeing from this team. Like it's a lot of dink and dunk, and that's what like these teams, like with the exception of the Commanders, the Eagles, the Bills, the Chiefs, they're running the death by 1,000 paper cuts offense. The slow scheme, they slow the game down. They let their defense put them in good field position. They it's just they let their playmakers make plays. Now, what I will say is the Chiefs defense is no pushover. We know that. We know that. And it starts with Chris Jones. I saw Rapp is going to be out for the Bills, but we got to realize that we have Matt Milano back, and ever since Matt Milano has come back for this Bills team,
Yes, that defense
they
has
have been
changed.
solid. So,
Oh my
as much
God.
as Taylor Rapp means to that secondary, we've got to understand that we have still a sound defensive team. They don't have a lot of holes. Like Ed Oliver starting in the middle, and Matt Milano in the back, and Teron Johnson, and they just have so many pieces that you really are top to bottom, left to right. They're solid. So this is going to be a good game. I think it lands on a possession. So again, play it live if you get a 3 or better on the Bills, and I love the Bills on a teaser. Now, prop wise, Dino, was there anything you were targeting this? I already said the James Cook, but other than that, was there anything that you were looking at for this game?
Yeah, I think I brought up earlier, but Josh Allen, anytime touchdown.
I
I
agree.
I'm even gonna do two. I'm even gonna do two again. I did two last week. It's just gonna be one of those, like you said, death by paper cuts. I feel like it's gonna be a hard fought game on the ground. Like you said, all year long. I mean, Josh Allen hasn't had one. He finished the season with not one receiver having 1,000 yards. So that lets you know how much of the game has been on the ground, how much has been predicated on the ground. And honestly, like I said, if you just keep chopping away, don't turn the ball over. That's the way you're gonna beat the Chiefs. And I feel like when you put that ball in, when you put the ball in Josh Allen's hands, that's the best way for him running the ball. I feel like that's the best way for him for not causing any turnovers. So he's gonna get the ball a lot this game.
Yeah, the one parlay I did play, going back to the last game, I played Saquon 2 touchdowns, James Cook 2 touchdowns. James Cook actually had 2 touchdowns last time they played the Chiefs,
Hmm.
so he's had success. But I agree with you. This may be leaning on a Josh Allen 1-2. I wouldn't even call you crazy if you said 3 touchdowns.
Right.
He just seems like he wants the ball in his hands in the
Hands.
big moments,
Yes.
and he's making them count. So I agree with you there. I'm also going to sprinkle Travis Kelsey touchdown. It's plus money.
Yeah.
He's going to be their
Yeah.
leading target guy. Um,
Hmm.
and you can get call me crazy, Donnell, but you can get Xavier Worthy over 2.5 rushing yards.
Yeah. I'll be looking at that every week. Every
I
week.
I don't get it because we've seen him have 2, 3 like jet sweeps a game. So
Hmm.
I think in a game where it's going to come down to probably creativity, the
Yeah.
Chiefs are one of those teams where we've seen Xavier Worthy get the ball in the backfield and bust off big runs before. So I think I'm probably going to play it for a half unit. It's going to take a shot on it. Um, But yeah, other than that, it's going to be Travis Kelsey receiving yards and targets, and then I'll probably go after Xavier Worthy receptions because he weirdly has become Patrick Mahomes' favorite receiver. Not D Hop, not Marquise Brown, probably because Xavier Worthy's been there and been healthy all year, and they obviously brought in D Hop and Marquise Brown was out with an injury, so he's got this like unspoken uh chemistry with Xavier Worthy right now. So I'm playing his receptions, not his receiving yards, but I am playing receptions because we kind of have seen him be like the screen pass guy. So I'll take a shot on him as well.
That's all it is.
But that'll do it. That's the two games. A lot of yapping, but I'll tell you what, there is a lot to love from all four of these teams. Props,
Yes, sir.
markets. I mean,
Hmm.
this is probably one of the best lineups we've had for a championship game matchup. It's refreshing to not see the Niners in this because I feel like this is where they always disappoint. But dude, we've got a Commanders Eagles NFC Championship. We've got a
What?
Bills Chiefs AFC Championship. What more could we ask
Mhm.
for?
Exactly. Exactly, bro.
So that's gonna do it for us. A lot of props we talked about. Do your due diligence, shop around, follow us on X at shred the spread underscore. If anything comes up, if there's injury news and we want to get some information out regarding our sides or our picks or our props, whatever it may be, you can find all of that there. Dino, any last words for the listeners?
Yeah, this is to the Washington fan base. Dan Snyder is officially gone, guys, and we're making him pay for it right now. I absolutely fucking love it. And but just like every message, guys, make sure you guys follow me at Dineezy. That's at DYNEEZY on X, and make sure you guys follow us at Shred the Spread underscore to make sure you guys get any updates, injury news. For the most part, I mean, I think we're all locked in with our props and our bets. But definitely tune in. Things happen, man. Things change.
We will be back next episode with our Super Bowl best bets. One of us will be in the Super Bowl at least. So, with that being said, thanks again for tuning in to another episode of the Shred the Spread podcast. Thanks for the support. And until the Super Bowl, we'll see you.
Peace.